The water is perfectly still before the start. Beneath the bright lights of an indoor pool, reflections ripple across the ceiling, fractured and trembling, waiting to be disturbed. The silence is not empty, it is heavy, dense with expectation. Somewhere in the stands, a clock ticks. Somewhere behind the blocks, a young woman steadies her breathing, fingers brushing the cool tile, feeling the weight of years compressed into a single moment. This is the world of elite swimming, where time is measured not in seconds but in hundredths, where victory is invisible to the naked eye, and where an entire life can be defined by the space between one wall and the next. This is where Martina Schröter's story unfolds. Born into the tightly structured reality of the German Democratic Republic, Martina Schröter grew up in a country where sport was more than competition, it was national identity, political expression, and international ambition combined. From an early age, her life would be shaped by discipline, expectation, and a system that sought excellence with unwavering focus. Long before medals, records, or international arenas, her journey began quietly, in local pools, under the watchful eyes of coaches trained to recognize potential before it fully revealed itself. As a child, swimming entered her life not as a dream, but as a routine. In East Germany, talent identification programs were deeply embedded in schools and youth sports clubs. Physical aptitude was observed early, measured carefully, and directed purposefully. Schröter's coordination, strength, and feel for the water stood out. What began as structured training soon evolved into something more consuming, more demanding. Early mornings, repetitive drills, and strict schedules replaced ordinary childhood rhythms. Her family life, like that of many young athletes in the GDR, adapted around her training. Support was practical rather than expressive, shaped by the culture of the time. Achievement was expected, effort was mandatory, and emotional distance often accompanied ambition. Yet within this environment, Schröter developed resilience. Swimming became both obligation and refuge, a space where clarity existed, where the rules were simple: move faster, turn cleaner, finish stronger. By adolescence, her progression accelerated. She entered the elite youth sports system, training at specialized centers designed to produce international champions. Here, the demands intensified. Days were divided between school, training, and recovery. Technique was dissected endlessly. Starts, turns, stroke mechanics, and pacing strategies were refined with almost scientific precision. Improvement was measured constantly, recorded meticulously, compared relentlessly. Competition soon followed development. Schröter began appearing at national junior championships, where she tested herself against the strongest swimmers of her generation. These events were not merely contests, they were evaluations. Coaches, officials, and selectors watched closely. A single performance could open doors or close them. Schröter learned early how to swim under pressure, how to suppress distraction, how to deliver when observation was most intense. Her breakthrough into senior-level competition came as a result of consistency rather than spectacle. She was not introduced as a sensation, but as a dependable presence, an athlete who could be relied upon in heats, semifinals, and relays. In East German swimming, reliability was prized, depth mattered. Relays, in particular, were a strategic priority, and Schröter's ability to perform cleanly within a team structure elevated her standing. Training during these years followed a rigid framework. Volume was high, intensity was non-negotiable. Sessions often extended for hours, combining endurance sets, sprint work, strength training, and technical drills. The physical toll was significant, but questioning the system was not an option. Schröter adapted, developing a work ethic defined by repetition and endurance. Fatigue became familiar, pain became background noise. As she entered the international stage, the scale of competition shifted dramatically. European championships and world championships presented an entirely different atmosphere: larger venues, louder crowds, and the weight of national expectation. Wearing the colors of East Germany carried immense responsibility. Success was celebrated as proof of the system's strength. Failure was absorbed silently, rarely discussed publicly. Schröter's performances at major championships reflected both individual capability and collective strategy. In relay events, she functioned as part of a meticulously engineered unit. Each swimmer had a role, a precise distance, a targeted split. Personal glory was secondary to overall outcome. In individual races, she faced rivals from other powerhouse nations, navigating the fine margins that separated finalists from medalists. Moments of success came without excess. Podium ceremonies were formal, restrained. Emotion was contained. Yet beneath the surface, each achievement carried immense personal significance. Years of discipline condensed into seconds of validation. Each clean race reinforced her place within the system, justified the sacrifices made, and extended her career at the highest level. Challenges were present, even if rarely voiced. The pressure to perform was constant. Training loads pushed physical limits. Recovery was brief. Doubt, when it appeared, was internalized. Schröter, like many athletes of her era, learned to move forward without reflection, focusing narrowly on the next session, the next meet, the next call-up. As the 1980s progressed, her career unfolded against a backdrop of global competition and political tension. International swimming was evolving rapidly. Records fell, standards rose. Maintaining relevance required continual adaptation. Schröter remained competitive through discipline rather than reinvention, relying on the habits ingrained through years of structured preparation. Toward the later stages of her competitive years, subtle shifts occurred. Younger swimmers emerged, faster, stronger, trained within the same system that had shaped her. The margins narrowed. Selection became less certain. Injuries and fatigue required management, though they were rarely acknowledged openly. Longevity in elite swimming is fragile, and Schröter approached this reality with quiet pragmatism. The conclusion of her elite career did not arrive with ceremony. There was no formal farewell, no public announcement marking the end. Instead, competition gradually gave way to absence. Training loads reduced, appearances became fewer. The pool that had once dictated every hour of her day slowly loosened its hold. Retirement from competitive swimming marked a profound transition. For an athlete shaped entirely by structure, stepping away required redefinition. Schröter entered a world without race schedules, without qualifying standards, without constant measurement. Like many former East German athletes, she carried with her both pride in achievement and the complexity of a system that had defined her path. Her post-competitive life unfolded away from the spotlight. She remained connected to swimming and sport, drawing on her experience and discipline, but without seeking public attention. Education, work, and private life replaced the regimented routine of elite training. The skills developed in sport focus, endurance, responsibility found new expression beyond the pool. Martina Schröter's legacy exists quietly within the history of East German swimming. She represents a generation shaped by intensity, expectation, and extraordinary discipline. Her story is not defined by headlines alone, but by consistency, commitment, and the lived reality of high-performance sport in a unique historical context. Her journey reminds us that behind every result lies a human life shaped by choices made early and paths rarely questioned. It is a story of dedication without spectacle, of excellence pursued methodically, and of identity forged through water, repetition, and resolve. And her story does not end at the finish wall. As the years passed and the echo of starting signals faded from her daily life, Martina Schröter's relationship with swimming transformed. What had once been an all-consuming force slowly became a reference point rather than a requirement. The pool no longer dictated her mornings or measured her worth, but it remained deeply woven into her identity. This transition, often invisible to outsiders, marked one of the most demanding phases of her journey. Life after elite sport required adaptation. The rigid structure of the East German sports system had shaped every aspect of her routine, from waking hours to nutrition, from education to social life. Stepping away meant rebuilding a sense of self without lanes, clocks, or selection lists. For Schröter, this process was gradual. The discipline that once powered her training sessions now provided stability in ordinary life. She approached new responsibilities with the same seriousness that had once defined her approach to competition. The historical context surrounding her career could not be separated from her story. The 1980s were years of significant political and social tension, and the world of East German sport existed within that reality. As time passed and broader changes unfolded, former athletes like Schröter found themselves reassessing their experiences through new perspectives. Achievements that once belonged solely to national pride were now understood within a more complex framework. Yet even as narratives evolved around the system itself, the reality of effort remained unchanged. The hours spent in cold water before sunrise, the relentless repetition of drills, the sacrifices of adolescence. These were personal, undeniable truths. Schröter's commitment was real, her work ethic unquestionable, her performances earned through physical and mental endurance. History may reinterpret context, but it cannot erase dedication. In reflecting on her competitive years, Schröter's story stands as a reminder of the demands placed on elite swimmers. Unlike sports with visible confrontation or prolonged moments of drama, swimming compresses everything into silence and speed. There is no dialogue with an opponent, no chance to adjust mid-race. Once the start signal sounds, preparation becomes destiny. Schröter lived within that reality, learning to trust her training absolutely. Her experiences also illustrate the collective nature of success within East German swimming. Individual achievement was inseparable from team strategy, coaching philosophy, and institutional structure. Relays, in particular, symbolized this interconnectedness. Each swimmer's contribution mattered equally, and Schröter's reliability made her a valuable part of those collective efforts. She swam not only for herself, but for a system that demanded unity and precision. As years turned into decades, public attention moved elsewhere. New generations of athletes filled the lanes. Records were broken, championships contested, headlines rewritten. Schröter's name became part of the historical fabric rather than current conversation. Yet within the swimming community and among those who understand the era, her career retained meaning. Her journey reflects a broader truth about sport at the highest level. Not every important story is loud. Some are defined by consistency rather than spectacle, by contribution rather than dominance. Schröter may not be remembered as a singular icon of global swimming, but she represents the countless elite athletes whose excellence sustained teams, elevated standards, and made victory possible. There is also dignity in the way her career concluded. Without controversy, without theatrics, she stepped away when competition no longer defined her future. That quiet exit mirrors the professionalism with which she approached her sport. Swimming was never about attention, it was about execution. When the time came to move on, she did so with the same resolve that had carried her through training and competition. Today, her legacy lives in subtler ways. It exists in the understanding of what it meant to be an elite swimmer in a highly structured system. It exists in the lessons of discipline, resilience, and adaptability that extend beyond sport. And it exists in the recognition that behind every medal table and record list are individuals who gave years of their lives to moments measured in seconds. Martina Schröter's story reminds us that the true measure of an athlete is not only found in podium finish, but in the commitment to a demanding path, sustained over time, often without recognition. Her journey speaks to the quiet strength required to endure pressure, to perform repeatedly, and to transition gracefully when the competition ends. At Behind the Medal, this is the essence of why stories like hers matter. They reveal the human reality beneath the results, the discipline behind the data, and the lives shaped by sport long after the cheers have faded. If Martina Schröter's journey gave you a deeper understanding of what it truly means to compete at the highest level, support the channel by liking this video, sharing it with others, and subscribing for more true stories that go beyond the finish line. This video contains generated images. They are used only for creative illustration and may not represent the athlete's exact appearance.